it's impressive that fines and imprisonment align with the things that we hold dearest because of our evolved brains. But there are countless examples of things that the law could impose upon us, but doesn't, because we just don't think they're important. To conclude this idea about the deep patterns in architecture, there was what I thought was a very apt analogy by the professors to a beaver dam. And the way that works is that beavers, evolved as they are, have the basic instruction sheets in their brain for building a dam. And if they build it in a river or in a stream, depending upon the seasons or the exact location, the dam will look different. But that evolutionary blueprint is the same in all of them. And that's kind of what we see in the law. The evolutionary blueprint, these ideas, these things that are important to us, reproduction, resources, etc., these are all the same in all humans across cultures. But depending upon the exact particulars of their location and culture, they may appear slightly different in the particulars, just as a beaver dam in two different locations would look differently. And to finally conclude, just again, there are a number of issues that looking at things from an evolutionary perspective gives people a reason for pause. Again, I just want to emphasize the naturalistic fallacy and never to conflate that what has evolved in us is necessarily a good thing, a moral thing, a right thing, or the other way around, that is what right and good has evolved. Evolutionary perspectives and behavioral biology certainly ought never be used and for genetic causes of genetic determinism, sexism, and social Darwinism. And in those cases, even if it were attempted to be used, by people with nefarious political agendas, it actually turns out that in most cases it would be wrong, proved wrong by thoughtful scientists. So in the end, I guess I was hoping to open this up for questions. I just wanted to kind of lay a framework for some of the ways that we can think about things, the way that the things that were important to humans evolving in the savannah a million years ago reflect our legal systems today. And so hopefully, I'll push the podium aside and sit down, and we can have a bit more of a discussion. Anyone?
While we're having the discussion, you can also go in and get seconds or whatever.
did I say anything interesting?
I have a topic for discussion. I think you discussed sort of evolution generally, and some of the ways in which it's implicated in law, but I'm curious as to what people think with respect to how the law perhaps should be shaped, if at all, by evolutionary theory. And one example that comes to mind is a recent New York Times article about family law and the idea that a husband is the putative father of any child. And now with DNA tests becoming more widespread, you can buy them at CVS and Duane Reade, there are increasing cases in which men find out that their wives' children do not belong to them. And courts are still making them pay child support despite that fact. And in some of the cases, the former wives marry the men that fathered the children, yet the ex-husband, who is not the father biologically, is still forced to pay child support. And the only way that you can get around it is if you claim that there was fraud involved, which requires that as soon as you find out that the child is not yours, you must then abandon the child completely to show the court that you indeed believe that there was some fraud going on. So if, indeed evolutionarily men want reproductive success, they want to be able to spread their genes, and the worst deception is to invest resources in a child that's not biologically theirs, would we then say that somehow courts are getting this profoundly wrong?
One thing I was thinking was that initially Tom said that evolution now has kind of come to a halt because all the different factors that it can't actually keep up with how fast society and the world is changing. So it led me to think about the question of why are we still following these evolutionary standards in our law if they're not actually going to have any benefits. So in that situation, if it's, I think then, why should the law necessarily say that to be a father of someone you actually have to be the genetic, to be able to support that child, you have to be the genetic father. Why should the law say that versus saying, if it's not going to have the benefits of evolution, of keep passing those genes on, maybe we should support maybe instead. How can we make sure that a child is going to be supported? So sort of taking those social factors and saying, well, if evolution isn't going to work, there's another factor that we want to take into account, and that's where we're going to make that more important.
Yeah, just to respond to your point too, we actually talked about that article in our anatomy of divorce class yesterday. And the law says that the test is the best interest of the child. So in that circumstance, that's why the courts have sort of devised this remedy where the putative father has to continue to support the child. And actually, the professor, who's actually a practicing divorce lawyer, when he has these clients in that situation, he actually has the putative father then petition the biological father for contribution to sort of get around this sort of inequity where they have to spend all this money and resources to financially support the child.
And the legal grounds for getting reimbursement from the biological father?
Well, that gets out of your sort of idea of this fraud, right? The best interest of the child to have maybe the stability of having the putative father still around, but you still want to sort of maybe have a remedy for this father who feels like,
who feels cheated.
Yeah.
Sure. No, I mean, but I understand that point in general, but I think I don't understand it in cases where the woman remarries and marries the father of the child. And that's the case which I think in which